Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life could be a little bit miserable, life could be a little bit dark, so we're here to bring you plenty of joy, I hope, and smidgen of light. Hi Bradley, once again joined by Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Not too bad. I'm on a funky different microphone setup today, so I'm going to sound weird and probably a little bit crapper than usual, which is quite the challenge. Yeah,
you didn't need to do the second part. It's just just a bit weirder.
Always good to have the support of your co-host. That's what I say.
Indeed. Talking of co-host, nothing to do with co-host whatsoever. Have you seen the Twisted Metal TV series yet?
No, I've seen that it's happening, but that's so bizarre.
It's out. It's been out for over a year.
Really?
I think it came out last year anyway, but it's on Paramount Plus at the moment, which I get through Sky. And I just binge watched it this last week. Do you know what? It is glorious, glorious, glorious trash.
Yeah.
It is really good.
God, that's weird. It looks, just like it's going to be complete garbage.
And it should be, but it's not.
Wow.
You kind of look at it and I think the second season might be a bit crap. But what they kind of done with this first season is they've loosely got a couple of the characters from Twisted Metal in it. So like Sweet Tooth, the clown's in it and stuff like that. But they've given him a bit of a backstory, which works. They've given him some humanity, which works in a good way. Trust me, still a psycho clown. But it's based around this guy played by Anthony Mackie, who is they call him milkmen, and they have to go and do drops between cities, deliveries and that. It's post-apocalyptic, obviously. They have to do deliveries and stuff like that. But the cities inside are all nice and everything, but it's the wasteland outside, Fallout-ish kind of thing. It's all dangerous, so they send milkmen out to do it. It's all about his adventures. The second season, they're kind of going more towards the actual what the game's about, which is just blowing the shit out of other cars. And there's a couple of nods to things like that, but it's really, really good. You've got Will Arnett plays Sweet Tooth, or does the voice for Sweet Tooth. Anthony Mackie is in it. Stephanie Beatrice, is it she's called? Used to be in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
She's great.
She's in it. Yep, she's really good. And Thomas Hayden Church is in it as well, and he's really good.
The Sandman.
I just kind of watched it and just went, this is glorious trash. I'm glad I've seen this.
Well, that's excellent. I mean, that means I'm going to probably pirate it. Pay for Paramount Plus, obviously. Yeah.
I pirated it and then I didn't get around to watching it, and it's on my computer, so I can delete it now. And then just watched it on Paramount Plus because I had that anyway. But it came out in America via, I want to say Hulu. Oh, no, Peacock. Sorry, it came out on their Peacock streaming service, and we couldn't get it over here. But Paramount got the rights for it in the UK. But yeah, it's good. It's probably the best video game adaptation I've seen.
What, including films?
Yeah, I'd go with that. It might be eclipsed in a couple of weeks by Fallout, but yeah.
I forgot that was coming as well.
Yeah, that looks really good.
God, these people are desperate to make some cash off these IP, aren't they? Oh.
The thing is, here's the interesting thing. I think video games lend themselves better to TV series than they do films.
Yeah.
Because you've got more time to expand the lore. Video games aren't story bases like Fallout, like Last of Us, etc. Sorry, no, it's not the best thing. I've seen video game adaptation. The Last of Us is, that's really good. But that's just, I've played the game. I knew exactly what was happening, whereas Twisted Metal goes off in a direction. But you've got time to build lore and do stuff with it. A film, you've kind of got to get it all in an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it just doesn't work unless you're into it. But then you've got to make it that it's not the video game. It's something based on the video game that other people might be interested in. So you alienate two sets of people. Whereas a TV series, you've got time to do all that world building. And yeah, it's good. Really good.
Ah, cool. Oh, I will check it out, definitely. And if it's rubbish, I'm blaming you. So
yeah, that's fine. Yeah. What's your favourite video game adaptation so far then?
Oh, blimey, that's a difficult question.
Is it Far Cry?
Far Cry.
Or Alone in the Dark. Any of the Uwe Boll ones, they're brilliant.
I think probably The Last of Us. I think that was pretty good. It was so much like the game, though, and the game is so memorable that it's kind of like just watching the game being played, but with real people.
That's all I got from it. It's like really, really good. And it takes out the bad bits because some of the gameplay in The Last of Us isn't great. And but it was just like watching the cutscenes, which is just really weird. And I hope if they are going to go season 2, 3, 4, whatever, they now go off and do their own stuff with it. Like you get to a degree with The Walking Dead, like The Office done when it pivoted, all stuff like that. When you go and do your own thing with the source material, I think it works better. That's why I think Fallout's going to be good, because you can't just do the Fallout story, because there's not just a Fallout story. Fallout's the world. It's not everything else. Like you could do anything you want in Fallout. Fallout is just the setting, and I think that's what's going to make that really, really good.
Yeah, remains to be seen, but I am hopeful.
Talking of Fallout and Twisted Metal and The Last of Us, great TV shows, as we know. Do you know what else they could be?
What could they be?
Could be video games if they really wanted to be, Stu.
Oh yeah, that could actually work. I think you might be on something.
I reckon you could get a really decent video game based off The Last of Us and Fallout, and a pretty average one based on the Twisted Metal TV series.
I think you're like a prognosticator. You seem to just be like hitting them out the park. Yeah,
I know. Take the story out of Twisted Metal. You don't really need any of the story. Just a couple of little bits of text to backstory a couple of the characters. Just have all like the car war bits. That's all you need.
Nice.
All you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. Definitely.
When are we getting a Wipeout TV series? Oof. And I don't mean that shitty thingy that they all did, where they'll bounce on balls and water and stuff, like the video game Wipeout.
Now that would cost some money, but I would watch it.
They could do a really bad reboot style visuals.
That would make it considerably cheaper, yeah. That would definitely help.
Oh, Thomas Was Alone, the TV series. I'm getting onto Mike Biffle.
I reckon a small cartoon show, 5 minutes a time of that would work.
I'm messaging Mike.
Do it.
He's got to get in on it. He could send it to Amazon or Netflix, whoever. Yeah. But anyway, video games. What have you been playing, Joe?
Well, I've been playing something that's a little bit retro that doesn't have any kind of adaptation at the moment. Although the world that it's set in has constantly been, we're definitely doing a movie of this, and then it never happens. And that's the world of Metal Gear, and the game is Metal Gear Rising. Subtitle: Revengeance.
The good one.
Yeah.
The only good Metal Gear there is.
It's one of the best, and it shouldn't be. So I mean, everyone probably knows the story of it now, but they wanted to make it for years. The Konami were on it, and they realised they couldn't make a game of it. They wanted to do this thing where you could cut literally everything in the world with your katana. Really struggled, couldn't make a good game out of it, so they handed it to Platinum, and Platinum Games made a great game out of it. Although, it's kind of lost to time a little bit, and not everybody would say it's great. And the reason they would say it's not great is because, well, A, that they're wrong, but because it's a bit janky still. Like, I'm playing this because I played Wanted Dead, and I was like, I've got to play a better game. I've got to play the same type of game, but better. And so I haven't played this for 10 years. So I was like, playing that, and the camera is atrocious still, and there's no proper lock on, so both of those things are kind of problems that Wanted Dead had. It's not as bad as that, but it still struggles with it. But the thing is, right, everything else about the game is absolutely brilliant. So the visuals are fantastic. They take all the right stuff from Metal Gear, but they add a load of other stuff that's new. They have really, really interesting, fun characters that you're up against. It's totally over the top and cheesy, but deliberate. The action is incredible. The cutscenes are good, which is unusual. It's got a great fighting system. It's a bit hobbled by the camera and the lack of lock on, but it's really good. It's impactful, and you've got like I talked about last week, the Zandatsu thing, which is where you chop them apart in slow mo. That's brilliant. That never gets old. The design is superb. The weapons are great. The enemies are great. It just, honestly, it's such a good janky game. It's like the best of the jank that there possibly is. And it's got a great lead character who's like your classic kind of silent protagonist, but looks really cool, and that's all that matters. Oh yeah, I just love it. It's brilliant.
And it's done that thing where if your game's going to age badly, like the themes in it are going to age badly and stuff like that, you want to do it in a way that you're self-referential from the start. And Metal Gear Rising is as camp as buggery. And I love it for that. And it doesn't matter. Like, some of the themes in it, you kind of look back, you just go, oh yeah, that doesn't age particularly well in 10 years. But you kind of go, but come on, it's just camp as hell. It really doesn't matter. They're fully aware that it is. So you get away with it rather than going fully like, oh, we're going to play this seriously. Which I still think Metal Gear tries to do to some degree. This doesn't. This just goes all out camp. And I love it for it. Definitely. It's the reason I think like Airplane still works despite being problematic, because it's fully aware of its problematic status when it was made. And I think it takes a very clever person to write that sort of content well.
It does, and yeah, it's got all that camp. It's kitsch. It's over the top. It just ticks all those boxes, and like you say, narrowly avoids not being problematic. But still a product of its era. I think we've kind of, like you say, in the last sort of 10 years, really, almost exactly, we've had a real change in kind of how people react to marginalization, and there's the Me Too movement and all sorts of things, and the reaction, positive and negative, with Donald Trump, and it's really polarized people, and an absolute ton has changed, and it's definitely a pre that it's pre that, but like you say, with it being mad camp, it gets away with it, and it's such a fabulous action game. I just love it.
What came out first? Metal Gear Rising or Vanquish? I can't remember.
Oh, I think it was Rising. I think.
Because I always found Vanquish to be the better of the two games.
Yes, it is objectively better. I prefer Metal Gear Rising, but objectively Vanquish is better. Yeah.
I prefer the story and the writing of Metal Gear Rising. I prefer the gameplay of Vanquish.
Yeah.
That would be my take on it.
Yeah. The world building and the backgrounds and the style of Vanquish were really great. But yeah, the story isn't anywhere near as sharp.
No. They're very similar thematically. It almost looks like, I almost wonder whether they was initially, like the engines were built and the games were built, whether they was going to be their own IP. In the same thing, because a lot of it looks similar. In terms of like the suits and stuff like that, it's all got that similar feel to it. I reckon there's more to that than meets the eye. I reckon Metal Gear Rising was a game that then got made into a Metal Gear game.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. As I say, it was Konami who were doing it exclusively, and then handed it over to Platinum late in the day, and there's definitely loads of DNA there from both companies. But I just looked it up, and Vanquish came out first, actually, which is a surprise. October 2010. Good God, that's a long time ago now. Yeah.
Vanquish verified on the Steam Deck, and so is Metal Gear Rising. So no excuse. I'm gonna boot one of those up. I think I might go with Vanquish, seeing as you spoke about Metal Gear Rising.
Do it. Runs perfectly on. Well, Metal Gear Rising runs perfectly on the deck.
I'd imagine Vanquish does as well. I've not played that in a couple of years, so why not?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. I've not been playing either of those yet. You've been playing something that's considered retro. I've been playing something that you could consider indie. There's a surprise.
Oh, yeah. God, you shocked me there.
I know. Usually I'm playing these AAA blockbusters. Even my favourite AAA games aren't really AAA games. Anyway, Pepper Grinder I've been playing, which is from Devolver. Devolver, just on a quick note, as a publisher, You're not quite tipping over the edge yet, but you're heading in that direction. Sort yourselves out. Remember your indies first. Anyway, I've been playing Pepper Grinder, which is a 2D action platformer where you've got all your normal sort of like you're running around, you're doing little attacks and stuff like that. But the little caveat on this one is that you've got this drill, and you can use the drill to basically bury and move through like sand-like substances, and the way you move through them is kind of like the way it's described here in the game is like a dolphin swimming but through the earth. So you kind of like you dive into like a soft ground, and you'll use the momentum from diving into the soft ground to go around the soft ground, picking up gems and stuff, and then kind of fly out to then bridge a gap to go into another one. So you kind of got that Tony Hawk style gaps where you're like trying to get that fluid movement going to get through levels. You start off and it's all very simple, like going, look, you can drill through here to collect these, and then you drill through here, and then you do a jump and you arc through the sky to go onto another bit, and it just teach you that and chains it all together, and eventually you're doing like these really amazing combos and stuff like that to get through levels. Somewhere you'll grab onto something and it'll spin you around. There's like this weird big monster fin as well that's in there, friendly monster fin, where you can drill through its head to get from one gap to another instead of like creating a bridge. It's just like, it's really weird. Visually it's really interesting as well. And I've been playing it on and off for the last week or so, and honestly, it's not earth-shatteringly brilliant or changing the world, but it's just one of those precise platformers. There are plenty of them, but it's got just enough different about it that it's keeping me hooked. I want to play it through to the end, and I'm just pretty much enjoying it. So yeah, it's not nothing to write home about, not groundbreaking. The mechanics fine. It adds something different rather than just running and jumping. But I still feel it's stuff that I've done before, but I can't put my finger on where I've done it before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It kind of looks like a few different things sort of stitched together, but not in a bad way, in a kind of good way. It looks like a PSP game, which, funnily enough.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's reviewed today, 28th of March. Released today, 28th of March.
Yes.
So there's no reviews yet. Well, I'd be interested to see how that turns out, because I go back and forth on precise platformers, because I do find them a bit of a grind sometimes. Grinder. And they should have done grinder with just the R, like grinder. Sorry, getting confused.
There's a game.
Yeah, exactly. So penis grind. No, don't, Stu. It looks pretty good. Unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the games it does remind me of in terms of its movement a little bit, actually, is the Rayman 2D Rayman games, Origins and Legends.
All right, I thought you were going to say
there's a bit of that to it, because they're very. You need to build up momentum to a degree and sort of like get your flow going to get the best times and stuff like that. It's got a bit of that to it, but obviously it still feels different. And yeah, I'm with you. It's, I think the bar was set of these with Super Meat Boy. What was that, years and years ago, well over a decade ago now. The bar was set there, and I think it's very hard once that bar's been set that high to sort of like break above it. And I think there's so many games that are great and are really, really good, and this is one of them, but you kind of go, but has it eclipsed Super Meat Boy? And no, but that's not a bad thing at the same time.
Yeah. That's weird, yeah. I just had a look, and Super Meat Boy came out in 2010, which is the same year as Vanquish. Well, it's so weird because it feels so much more recent. But I guess that's because Vanquish kind of came out and then unfortunately disappeared, whereas Super Meat Boy is like a big cultural phenomenon, really.
Yeah. Don't ever play the sequel, it's crap.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
that Endless Runner one. I played it and I was like, this isn't Super Meat Boy. This is a bad game with a Meat Boy skin. Don't play it. Play the original. And then pay Powerhead McMillan some money.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Is he doing anything else? Is he working on anything that you know of?
Yes, he is. And it's not Binding of Isaac. Because I think he's also lost that now as well. I don't know. But he's doing a game called Eugenics.
Right.
Which he first teased, I want to say, back in 2016. Maybe even earlier.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know what it's meant to be, but it's got lots of cats in it. And that's sold me enough.
Yeah.
Ed McMillan plus cats. Yeah, I mean...
I'm sold. Yeah, pre-order get.
Yes. But yeah, no, it's good. Great, no. But it doesn't need to be great. It's just one of those games where I think, do you know what? Pick it up, play it, put it down when you're done, sorted. And they're fine. And this is why we'll come to a larger discussion in a bit, but this is why, again, indies lead the way, because it hasn't got to be a multi-million-pound success to be a good game, and you don't need that with indies, and a lot of the indie publishers are making sure that's something you don't need to do. And yeah, I think this fits nicely. I think this will do hopefully a couple of 100,000 units. So that and then a bit of word of mouth and more pick it up in sales and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it was one of those that people look back on fondly every now and again and go, yeah, that was a pretty decent game. Cool. Didn't change the world. But I don't want to look back at every game and go, oh my God, that changed everything. Because it hasn't got to do that, Stu.
Absolutely not. No, it just has to be good. That's all that matters.
And I hope the sequel's called Salt Grinder.
Yeah, it should be.
Or Rami Grinder, that'd be really cool.
Rami?
Yeah, Pepper Rami.
Oh, right. I gotcha.
And then it could have little, like, animal type thing in it, and it'll be all, like, come full circle. I don't know.
That sounds like an Amiga game from the early 90s.
Yeah, and we could have a game called Come Full Circle.
Oh, yeah. And he could be in it, the animal from the... Yeah.
Yes. Come Full Circle, Leisure Suit Larry experience.
Phil.
Right, have you got another one?
I have, yeah. I mean, not vastly interesting because it's comparatively old now, but then again, it's more modern than Metal Gear Rising, so what am I on about? But I've been playing properly for the first time Ghost of Tsushima for the PS5, and it's more so... No, well, I mean, I picked it up in 2022, so a couple of years ago, and it's 4 years old now, unbelievably, according to the internet, which is just mad. It's like
2022? You said it came out?
No, that was when I bought it. It came out.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is this the one they showed off the grass and just went, "Oh my God, look at the grass"?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I remember that trailer. Yeah,
and the grass is gorgeous. That's the thing. It is lovely, even though it's a PS4 game. And yeah, it's the reason that I picked it up. One of the reasons, at least, from the garage where I've got a load of games still in boxes from when we moved out 6 months ago, is because I moved, because we're having decorating done. I moved my PS5 downstairs so I could hook it up, and the main reason being I wanted to hook it straight into the router via a network cable, so that I could have a better experience with Chiaki 4 Deck, which is the way that you can stream games from your PS5 to your Steam Deck. And obviously
the only way to play video games. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's absolutely flawless. Now, it was good anyway, even when I was just using Wi-Fi, on the PS5 and on the Steam Deck. But with it wired in, it's basically flawless, which is astonishing, really, because it's just, a group of people not charging for a piece of software and getting you to, allowing you to do something that's completely, to the sort of 10-year-old me, his head would have exploded. And
a Nintendo director's head's exploded at the thought of that.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Don't do it with the Switch, please.
Yeah. Oh, they freak out. They want to have their own weird solutions that don't quite work properly, like the Wii U. But
the Switch U coming out next year.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, And again, I wanted another game with swords because I've obviously not been playing enough of those lately, and so this was the one that I grabbed from the bin. And yeah, it's a really good game. I've only been playing it properly for about 3 hours or so, but the production values are just totally off the charts. There's very few games that have that weave the story in with the visuals in quite so good a way. And that's not the absolutely most important thing about games for me by any stretch. It just has to play well, which is why unfortunately I keep saying about Alan Wake 2. The reason I bounced off that, best production values ever, a game that you just really couldn't be bothered playing. Well, for me anyway. But this weaves them together really, really well. So the story totally gels with the action. They're linked in a way that you don't see very often. It's kind of like that, even though it's got more distinct story elements that are done in cutscenes, obviously, because its reputation precedes it, because it has unskippable cutscenes, which takes a bit of getting used to. But it's a little bit like Half-Life and Half-Life 2 in that regard, in that, everything that you're doing in the world feels connected to the story.
Yeah.
And there aren't very many games that do that successfully. And the gameplay itself is really good. It's not, exceptional. It's not totally over the top amazing, but it's very, very solid. It's entertaining. It's got a good strata of difficulty, so you can set things the way that you want it. And it's got, as I say, just that tie-in with the world and the lore gives it a real edge. And it really does kind of stand of a bit of a landmark in the last few years of an action adventure style game that is as good as, in terms of production, God of War Ragnarok, or the first game, but plays better than that game as well, and is a deeper experience. So yeah, really, really good going. But I mean, the main takeaway is, if you got a PS5 and a Steam Deck, then get Chiaki for Deck so that you can play it remotely and get your PS5 connected to your router.
Yeah, I've got this pre-ordered, or not pre-ordered, wish listed for Steam.
Yeah,
because it comes out in May.
Yeah.
And this will lead into the slightly wider conversation we're going to have in a minute. But I've got hopes that this one will run on Steam Deck, based purely on what's happened with Horizon Forbidden West. Is that the new one? It is, isn't it? Forbidden West is the sequel. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Forbidden West is the sequel. That runs really well on Steam Deck, and it wasn't meant to. Apparently, there was a lot of people going, it's not going to run. Compare that to Dragon's Dogma, which doesn't. And Sony seem to have, one thing they seem to have got done really well is making sure their games scale really well to smaller hardware. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this one. If not, I might have to save up for a PS5 at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully when the PS5 Pro comes out, there'll be a drop in price of the original machine. But yeah, no, it should. There's no reason why it shouldn't run well with it being a PS4 game. But then again, you could have said that about Horizon Zero Dawn, which came out and chugged like a monster. So yeah, fingers crossed they've got it right this time. But
yeah, I think that was because it's their first major port, weren't it? In all fairness,
it was. Yeah, for that crew.
But yeah, no, I'm glad to hear it's good, because I really fancy this one. It looks good. And I won't get obviously all the adaptive trigger stuff or anything on Steam Deck, but I've not played with an adaptive triggers yet, so I have no idea what they feel like, so I don't care.
It's a very odd experience. It's very odd. The resistance that you get when you press him, it has a kind of reverse ASMR effect for me. I don't like it. It feels gritty, which is a really, really weird way of explaining it, but it's very strange. But I mean, the idea behind it and the way that it works mechanically is very clever. I
think like most technologies like this, whether it's VR, haptic feedback, whatever, I think they're all designed and only work at their best in racing games.
No, I was going to mention that. The only force feedback I've encountered other than that is like, say, racing games, racing wheels, and that feels great. It's amazing how it can feel like gravel just by the way that it vibrates. Very strange.
Yeah, and the resistance it gives and everything like that. Yeah, it's all.
There is one.
But yeah,
there is one PC game that does have it. Deathloop. What's it called? Deathloop.
oh, Deathloop, yeah.
I think Deathloop has it.
Yes.
So if you've got a pad, which you probably haven't, because why would you? But if you had a PS5 pad, you could try that out with it.
Yeah, I will pick one up at one point. I was going to pick one up, but I thought, no, I will end up getting a PS5 at some point because I just will. I'm not going down I've got to have every new console day one now. I've got a Steam Deck, so I'm happy with that. That seems to be good. That's probably my only day one. It will be the next Steam Deck. But consoles, I'm happy to wait now because again, once you get them later, the games are all out on PC or the games are really cheap.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, Deathloop I played. I didn't really like Deathloop personally.
No, I
couldn't get
like
into it.
No.
But I will. It is one that I will try with the haptic controllers when I get a chance.
Yep. Definitely go for it.
But yeah, moving on. Just the state of really the industry at the moment. And go to Ghosty Ghosts of Tsushima.
That's the one.
He's comes into it, and the Horizon games as well. It's sort of showing the state of like ports and everything. I was really looking forward to Dragon's Dogma 2. I tried a little bit of Dragon's Dogma because I picked it up for like £3 recently. I thought I'll give it a go, see what this is like, and it was alright. It was alright. It was fine. But everyone had been telling me, Dragon's Dogma 2 is gonna like raise the bar and everything in ways like similar to the way Baldur's Gate 3 did. So I was like, do you know what? Fine. I'll add it to the wish list. I think this one I'll pick up, and I never did get around to picking it up. And it turns out it's really badly optimised on PC for a start. And not just like Steam Deck, on like just generally on PC. It runs like an absolute dog. And it's filled to the brim with microtransactions. Yay!
Yeah.
Don't do that. Why are we doing that in a single player game?
Yep.
Apparently you have to unlock or you have to pay to fast travel. That's one of the microtransactions.
Oh, it's insane, isn't it? It's just crazy. I was seeing all of
but
it.
one of the things for it is, but you can earn it in game by grinding, right? Okay, fine. Don't do that, right? For a start, and secondly, right? The other one is, it's only a one-time purchase. Then don't put it in. You don't need to. You really don't need to put these sort of stupid DLC and microtransactions in. It's the same with skins and everything like that. For me, DLC, this might be old man shouting at clouds as well, or sort of like the game of back in my day things were better. But for me, DLC was expansion pack. So you bought The Sims, and then you've had The Sims for 2 years or whatever, and then there was a big expansion pack for The Sims. So you bought the expansion pack, and that gave you hours of new material. Now, I know with The Sims, it was mainly just glorified more skins and tables and housing decorations and stuff like that. Or you could have swimming pools or whatever, but it added hours of new content. The Fallout games, we were speaking about like the TV series earlier, you got Fallout 3, and then you got like, was it 3 really big expanded stories to add to that? That could have well been their own games or sequels if they really wanted to, but they was good chunky bits of DLC. You look at The Witcher, and you've got, was it Blood and Wine or whatever it's called, added to it, and you give a whole new sort of like 20-hour experience or 10-hour experience added on. To me, that is what DLC should be. And we all joke about horse armour and stuff like that, but I think that being a joke and people just going, it's just one of those things and it's harmless, it's just cosmetic, I think it's done real damage to what the bigger companies put out as video games now, because everything's sold to you piecemeal and it's just not right. And they must be turning over more money we know they're turning over more money than they've ever done before, but because they can't get the exponential growth, layoffs are absolutely ludicrous. And it's just the state of the AAA industry or the corporate side of video games is a mess. It really is, and it's depressing.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, it's really strange. It's kind of mirroring the way that I interact with games has mirrored the way that I interact with football. Because when I was younger, I'm really into football, and you have your different ways of interacting with it. So you play the video games, you play out with your mates, actually physically playing it, and you watch the stuff that's on the TV. You watch like the weekly stuff on the major tournaments, and then like over time, it got separated out so that the most profitable stuff was hidden behind a paywall, and my interest in football just dropped off a cliff. And because it not just, oh, you have to pay the money to watch the game. If it was that barrier to get over, I would do it, but I would not like it, but I would do it. But it's also that it changes the nature and the character of the game itself, because what you do and the way that it's, the kind of focus is then to make money, to be successful via a money-making scheme, which is what football has become. And it's exactly the same with games. It's like, oh, well, we've realised that these higher echelon things have these things in common, therefore we're going to gate them. And it kind of has destroyed it for me as well. And I, with the exception of stuff like the odd game like Ghost of Tsushima, I pretty much don't touch them anymore. 90% of the games that I play are indie titles, and I can't see that changing unless anything changes like really deep down with the way games are made.
Oh, 100%. And it's it's like today's the last day of the fiscal year, apparently. And there's already been companies having been sold off with their staff being laid off today and stuff like that, because it's now a case of, can we sell these companies off to make profits? And meet our quota to continue that growth, and they're just letting people's jobs go, and that's just not on. And apparently, the rumours are that when America wakes up, it's just gonna be even more. There's gonna be more companies just thrown to the wayside just to get their profits going and stuff like that. And video games aren't, or should it be about profits? It's I've been playing. I've just been sent code for Harold Halibut, and I can't talk about it yet because I've not actually started it yet. But I think like Harold Halibut is a game that no major AAA publisher would ever put out. It's took 10 years to make, and it's purely made it with stop motion. I think what it does, it kind of shows why AI generated content will never replace human content like made by actual creative people, because AI could not produce Harold Halibut, and I don't think we'll see another game of its like anytime soon, because it's one of those games where I think it's a one-off and it's a perfect storm for what it is. I don't want to see a sudden like 30 different stop motion games where everyone's chasing the same thing, because it just wouldn't work. It's a one-off piece of glorious and just art, whatever it turns out to be. It's an amazing one-off, and that's brilliant. But you wouldn't get that AAA. Last week I played, I spoke about Yellow Taxi Go Vroom.
Yep.
That doesn't get made by a AAA company. That can only be made by an indie. And I think the closest you get with this now is like Namco Bandai do something decent where they hire you programmers or developers and stuff like that. And part of their thing is they make games. And what they're starting to do, and they used to do it in Japan only, but they've started to do it across like the West now as well, is they put their games on like Steam or whatever free of charge, and you get to play them. And apparently this free have just gone up, and they're all pretty decent experimental games. But then I remember Ubisoft done that years ago with that Grow Home, is it?
Yeah, Grow Home.
I think it was, which was exceptional. But they also done stuff like Valiant Hearts, I think it was called, the Rayman games, and there was one with like a fairy type thing that was really quite cool as well. And they was putting out really interesting games, but they just went, no, that doesn't make enough money. It makes money, but not enough money. And it's just like, why is the greed there? And I sent a message to one of the people who works for Raw Fury. And I said, you guys are probably my favourite publisher in video games at the moment, because you've grown, but you've not forgot the little guy. I can get code from Raw Fury easily. And it's not why I like them, but they've not gone, oh, we've grown, you're too small for us now, which I can name others that have. Like No More Robots decided, no, you're too small now.
Yeah.
Devolver Digital can be difficult to get code from as they've grown. I used to know, like, be in contact with like the bosses at Devolver Digital when I was back at GameStyle, and you'd be able to go to them like, "Can I get this?" "Yeah, no problem." "Yeah, it's indie and everything." Now you've got to go through PR companies. You can't get in touch with any of like the higher up bosses because they've grown. Now Devolver Digital, and it's why I mentioned that little quip earlier, as a company are not quite at the corporation levels yet. They're not scummy practices yet, but I can see the signs are there. They're going to come to a crossroads soon, and they've got to decide which way do they want to go. Raw Fury, on the other hand, continue to be indie to the core. They don't care who you are. They want to put games in your hands. They want to give people a chance to make the games they want to make, whether they're good, whether they're average, even if they're bad. No one's got any issues with a bad game being made as long as it's been made with the right intention. But that's what the major companies are pretty much doing now. They're just doing identikit games that are going out, that are just using the previous assets from another game. And I couldn't tell you what the new Assassin's Creed is and how different it is from the other one. I don't believe I've even forgot that Ubisoft put out Skull and Bones recently. I've completely forgot about that. That was meant to be a big thing a couple of years ago. On Twitter the other day, I don't know, how big was you into the Vita?
Oh, really? Yeah, really heavily into it.
So do you remember Shahid Kamal, who was the Indies guy behind the Vita?
I don't remember the name, but I probably remember the games.
Right, he was basically the guy. He basically signed up. If there was an indie coming out, he basically went, right, let's get this on Vita. So all the indie games you got to play on Vita, whether it was Thomas Was Alone, whether it was Papers, Please, Super Meat Boy, etc., 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 it was thanks to him.
Right.
He's now been just chucked by the wayside. He doesn't have a job with Sony anymore, and he was saying about sort of like he doesn't feel like he's ever been an important part of games and stuff like that. And everyone's been commenting, going, "No, you have been like an important person." And I actually responded to him and said, "Look, for me, you're one of the most important figures in the last 15 years of video games for me, because I don't think indies are where they are now as a medium without your effort to get them onto Sony's platforms, and particularly on the Vita. The Vita only lasted as long as it did, and is remembered as well as it is because of all the indies that you got on there."
Yeah.
But chucked by the wayside because what he was doing wasn't making enough money for Sony. So it's ridiculous. And let's say the DLC makes some money, they still want to charge us more money for games. Everything above, I think, core indies is an absolute mess. And as a rule, as an audience, we're suckers and we fall for it. I've bought games that I go, I don't want to buy this because I know it's going to fund a corporation. I've been gifted them and stuff like that, and I will play the ones I've been gifted, but I won't buy them myself now because I just like there's certain practices I can't do. You're the same with like EA, aren't you? You won't touch EA.
Oh yeah, no, there's a good solid list that I won't buy from. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just DLC's a mess, and it's why I still think, again, bad rep, but No Man's Sky, Hello Games, is how you approach. They put out a bad game. They put out a game that was oversold in terms of promises, and instead of going what EA would have done, what Ubisoft would have done, what Activision would have done, Sony, Microsoft, all of them, instead of going, well, we buggered this up, that's it, that'll do, let's move on, they went, no, actually, let's get this right. And they're still pumping out free content. They've just put out another lot of free content, which allows you to like fundamentally change the game again. And it's just like, yeah, they're still indie. This is brilliant on them. They had one of the highest profile failures, I think, of all time, and have turned it around to make one of the most relaxing, most rewarding games to play at no extra cost, where they could have just binned it and done a sequel or a different IP with the mechanics they wanted to do. No, they kept the same game that had already sold and continued to work on it. And they got more sales through doing that. And you don't get that with major publishers. So screw the major publishers, buy indie. Because at least that way, if one of them's a sex pest, you only sort of like go, well, I can avoid this game, and I just punish the sex pest, not I've got to punish all the decent workers who work with the sex pests.
I mean, obviously, I agree with all of it. I think one of the good, perhaps the only good thing about owning a console rather than a PC, obviously, a couple of exclusives, but very few, is that you can dabble in the second-hand market for games, which means the money doesn't go to the publishers. I'm not going to have that for very long. But yeah, it's a terrible state. You're absolutely right. And I just, avoid them like the plague most of the time.
Yeah, it's you say you've got to spend the extra money to get the console that allows you to play the second-hand market games. But you have still got that option. I do miss big box PC games. I won't lie.
The option to have them is great. Yeah,
because you'd still be able to maybe go and find, Outrun Coast to Coast as a big box game if that was ever released big box, or Droplets or things like that you can't get anymore on Steam. That is the only problem. And I honestly think it should be that when you produce IP, and this isn't an issue with as many of the smaller indie titles, but definitely the bigger boys, is when you produce a game, there should be a thing where 6 months after you've removed it from sale, it becomes public domain. You're allowed to, it goes on a vaporware, whatever it's called. What's that thing called where you could get games that no longer exist?
Abandonware and freeware?
Abandonware, yeah. It should go on there. Because it's just not right that you can't play certain games anymore.
I agree.
To get rid of the licenses, because it's licensing of IP is ridiculous. It doesn't stop piracy. Denuvo doesn't stop piracy. We've spoken about this before. None of it stops piracy. If someone wants to pirate a game, they will pirate a game, and because of the Denuvo, the pirates get the better version of the game. So get rid of it. Just make your game priced well enough, make it good enough that people don't want to pirate it. I went on there, Stu. So, on that, play indies, screw the big boys. I'll shut up now.
Screw the big boys. That's a lesson.
There's your title.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so while you having fun screwing the big boys, also check out the small boys, if we can call ourselves that. Look at all of our content.
That's going to get us on the list.
Absolutely, if we're not already on it. But yeah, check out all of our content, which is obviously completely family friendly on the internet. We're there. We're on YouTube. We've got our own website. Check out all the content on there. There's lots. And join us for a conversation on Discord if you want. And in the meantime, until next time, stay safe and stay sane.